Workers were inside the factory when that explosion occurred, which led to a massive blaze that took hours to douse. Unfortunately, 40 of those employees died in that tragedy. What's worse is that there are several that are still unaccounted for, and many of the family members of these victims believe that this tragedy could have been avoided. Safety norms were flouted is what they claim. Faulty temperature sensors and failed alarms were noted after the explosion, and now there is an investigating team that will be looking into what exactly went wrong. But these lapses were definitely there. Were these lapses an oversight, or was it something more systemic? And in the aftermath, there's one question that echoes the loudest. Who is responsible for the loss of these 40 lives? It's been 4 days since that accident, since that explosion, and the families of those 40 workers are nowhere close to finding answers to those questions or even get a semblance of closure. Before we open that up here on Plain Speak, let's take a look at the facts of this case. In the aftermath, like I said, there have been several lapses that have come to the fore, leaving one wondering if this was a result of nothing but gross negligence. Firstly, the Sigachi Industries factory was operating without a valid fire non-objection certificate. Now, many within the management of the company, many within the fire department say that this is just a technicality, that they didn't need one. Why exactly was a factory that produces pharmaceutical products did not have a fire NOC when every single building in the country, no matter how small it is, requires one? Secondly, the fire department officials have confirmed non-compliance with fire norms. That begs the question on two fronts. What was the management of the industries doing not complying with those norms, and what was the administration, the fire department, doing when they knew that they were in non-compliance? And lastly, the lack of risk management and lack of safety measures are also under the scanner. Who is going to be held responsible for that? Now, even as those lapses continue to stare the administration and the Congress government in the state in the face, the investigation has raised some pertinent questions. While answering those questions, Telangana Labour Minister perhaps shot himself in the foot and put his party in the most embarrassing position, because this is what the Labour Minister said. He said that the management is responsible for the mishap. But if that was the case, why is no one from the management has been arrested yet, even though several members of the top management of Sigachi Industries have been booked for culpable homicide not amounting to murder? The Telangana minister claims that safety guidelines were ignored by the administration. If so, what was the state doing until now? Why did the state not act despite knowing that those norms were flouted? What's even more shocking is that this minister then goes on to say that there is no urgency to arrest the Sigachi Industries MD because he is not a flight risk. Where is he going to flee is the question this minister asked. But how can managers and owners of a top pharma company not be at flight risk, not be somebody who could possess the intention of fleeing because they have the means at their disposal? Aren't these questions that a court would ask this administration? The real question, though, remains who really is responsible for this tragedy. There are several that are answerable. First, of course, is the industry, the pharmaceutical company itself. A case of culpable homicide not amounting to murder, like I said, has already been filed. But will they face action? Will they face the law in this country and the courts of this country? The management of the factory, they also face charges of gross negligence. Now, the company management may say, the top owners may say that we don't look into the day-to-day management, and the management on ground needs to look at what needs to be done. In that case, what were they doing for all these years? The fire department officials, the administration in Sangareddy as well is responsible. Several warnings were issued by them allegedly, and if so, and if those warnings went unheard, why was no action taken up until now by the state government, by the fire department? Why was no penalty levied on this industry? Which is why we're now trying to ask that not only is the company responsible, not only is Sigachi Industries responsible, but is the state responsible as well for the loss of these 40 lives? Is the state now denying justice by not taking any action 4 days on?
There is a dust explosion which has taken place. Though the investigation is still on, we should have the updated internal third-party report very soon. Internal also, we are making an assessment. We will probably collate it and compare it with the investigation agencies.
To say that the state government neglected is not right, first of all. There is no criticism on the state government here. Here, the criticism is the plant management should have taken more measures.
Let's open this up. NV Subhash, spokesperson of the BJP, Navika Harshay, spokesperson of the Congress, is with us. B. Redana, former DCP, and activist K. Babu Rao is with us on this broadcast. But Navika Harshay, let me begin by asking you, why is it that the minister in the state says we are in no hurry to arrest someone who has the means at their disposal to try and flee if they want? There's a case of culpable homicide not amounting to murder that's been registered against these people.
No?
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Hello.
Yes, Ms. Harshay, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on your show. And I think what has been very clear through this entire horrific accident has been the state government's seriousness about the incident. The chief minister was there. He met the members of the organization. He met victims. Even our senior AICC in charges went there. Our ministers were there right from day one. So the fact that we have taken this incident very seriously cannot be ignored. I mean, it has been over 10 years since anyone in the state has seen a CM actually be taking the forefront and leading an issue and actually being with victims. And I think that shows our seriousness.
As a CM should. I don't think that needs a pat on the back for the CM or anybody in the administration. But anyway, go ahead.
We haven't seen, KCR was not seen for 10 years. I mean, he's been in the farmhouse for 10 years. As a leader of opposition also, he's not seen. So this is something that we are doing. And I think that is something which is new for Telangana. And we should appreciate the fact that the CM went there. He pulled up the administration of this company. And there are cases filed against them. There was medical compensation offered, victims were given money, everything has been done. And we have also said that a committee will be set up to find out what went wrong. We have to remember this is a private company. And whatever said and done, the state cannot take responsibility for a private company. Why wasn't there any work done by this company? They are responsible to their shareholders. What happened to the central authorities which are responsible for shareholders? Why were they not looking into it? Right now, it's very convenient to blame the Congress administration, whereas we have done everything which we can for a private company. And remember, this company has existed for 35 years, which means multiple negligences which have happened. And where are the central authorities in this? Isn't SEBI supposed to make sure that some of these norms are followed? And where are the fire authorities of the central government? We have very conveniently forgotten all that and just blamed the government, which is actually doing something. Our minister is still there. He's looking at meeting the victims, trying to make sure that all the compensations are given. We are there. We are on the ground. We're fighting from the ground. And we are with the people of Telangana always. And we're with the migrant workers who are working here. And I think that is the greatest thing that a state government can do. Be with the people. As opposed to other incidences in states where, for example, in the Morbi bridge collapse, nobody was ever pulled up. 135 people died. We didn't hear anything of what happened after that. Or even the Kumbh Mela and recently the
Ma'am, I don't see why we need to compare one tragedy to another. Questions are being asked of one particular tragedy, and one tragedy isn't bigger or smaller than any other.
Yeah, so what is
and having said that, when you say
one state government doing versus the other?
But why? Why should that comparison be made? Why should that comparison be made at all? This incident has happened in this state government. That this state government is responsible. That is what you voted to power for.
State governments.
But Navika Harshay, let me ask you. Okay, sure.
Compare state governments. We don't compare other things.
I don't think it's fair to compare state governments or the responses to tragedies or tragedies themselves. Not one is bigger than the other or vice versa. But NV Subhash, the Congress's argument is we've done all that we can. Why is the BJP or anyone else asking questions of us? Because they haven't done any better.
The questions because you are in the power in the state, and it's your responsibility. Whether it is the private sector or the the public sector, the lives of the people of the workers are in danger. Let me ask the same question to the Congress spokeswoman. It says that she says that why the center is not taking any action. It is the center. It is the state government responsibility because the inspector of factories, the factory's permission, the fire permission, all the requisite permissions will be given by the state government. And let me tell you one the great incident in that. The inspector of factories have visited this site only once in a year. Where are the mandatory requirements? Why it has been ignored? Why, people, the officials are not taking any action because there are so many lapses in this, the industry, because they have taken permission for X number of people, but Y number of people have already been, the working on it. Where is the safety? Where is the safety drill? Where is the, security for them? All these questions has to be asked. It's just, not, it's not a political situation in that. We should not make a political outfit in it. And then we should not compare with other incidents on that. When one incident happens, we should learn the mistakes, whether it is, the private sector or the government sector, what went wrong and what the, the measures we can take on that. One incident happening in, other places, that doesn't mean that all those people have not gone and then not.
Sure, but LV Subhash, do you agree with the Congress and the government in this case when they say that we've done everything that we could? This is the best that we can do. A committee has been formed, an FIR has been filed, the CM has been on ground. What more do you want from the government?
See, from past 18 months, so many incidents have been happening here. There is a, fire, just mishap just happened in Charminar, where around 24 people in the same family have lost their lives on that. So why I'm asking is that when the state government, it's the responsibility of state government to activate to motivate their officials to go and then inquire whether everything is in order or not, whether it is coming, whether it is the factory is running according to the norms which has been given the permission on that. There should be safety drills. There should be inspection. One inspection in 1 year, that doesn't mean that whole area. That means there is only one inspector of factories who does the inspection, and then if there are any lapses, they keep quiet. It is the government responsibility. That doesn't mean that the chief minister makes condolences and just gives compensation on that. There are so many incidences which just happened in 18 months. Why every time in Hyderabad and in and around Hyderabad, this the factories or the fire, it's just happening? Why is that? What is the government doing? It is not a political situation. We don't want to take an advantage on that because our Karakartas have gone in and then they are making required help on that. But on one incident, we should learn from what really went wrong and where are the lapses.
Sure, and those lapses need to be looked into, which is why I want to get in the activist on the panel as well, because he's somebody who's highlighted how these kind of factories are prone to cutting corners, and that's an allegation that has been made in this particular case as well. And the FIR that was filed based on a complaint by one of the victim's family members spoke about how several times, Babu Rao, the management was informed that there aren't enough measures in place, there aren't enough safety regulations in place, and yet no one paid heed to it.
Yeah, the whole system is functioning like that now. Because of ease of doing business policy that is brought by these governments, they are relaxing every regulation in favor of the management. They don't want to cause any inconvenience to them. And that is leading to these kind of accidents because of laxity in regulation. As I understand, no country with far superior ranking in ease of doing business relaxes in case of safety and in case of environmental regulations. It is our misfortune. And we don't have a goal also. Every nation has a goal of what should be the fatalities that can be allowed in industrial accidents per lack of workers. We don't have proper statistics also to look for, and every country is aiming for less than 1. And do we have any goals like that? We don't have. That is our misfortune. Another problem is we don't have safety education in this country. Anything of any standard. Who will inquire into these accidents when they happen? Simply by putting up a team together, you cannot expect something good will come out and something truth will come out. I am aware of so many investigations that have gone to the courts, and they are all unscientific and false. But unfortunately, nothing happens. They just go through the courts. Who has to do that? Because there is no department, including in the IITs, which teaches safety science. Because we don't think safety science is an important subject at all, because it is the poor people who are dying. And who are the people who have died here also? People from Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, like that. Why should they come? And why are they employing people in hazardous processes without any qualification and training? Who has to do that? Why? I have seen several accidents in which Only poor people who are working for wages, daily wages, they are dying in these hazardous processes. Who has to take care of them? Fundamentally, the director of factories and inspector of factories is a very weak system, and there are very few employees there, and they don't have enough strength to go and inspect. They don't have any capabilities also to inspect different types of industries, because this is a spray dryer. How many of them understand how the spray dryer functions and what kind of inherent hazards are in that? Where will they get time to learn all these things, and where do they get exposure to that science? The whole problem is that so unless we have expertise developed in those areas, entire world has learned from our Bhopal tragedy, but unfortunately we don't seem to learn anything from it. This is a great misfortune, particularly
And speaking
in the
of
case.
lessons, and speaking of lessons to be taken, Mr. Redana, as far as incidences or tragedies like these are concerned, lessons have to be learned on both ends of the spectrum, isn't it? It's for the private industry to learn that they cannot be cutting corners, having their workers, having their lowest in their food chain for their thought to be paying the price with their life. It's also for the governments of the day. It's also for the administration. If they were cutting corners, this industry has been there around for about 35 years. It's also in an area where you have all of these industries. It is one particular identified zone. And if yet the government has not been able to identify what the issues are, rectify them or penalize these industries, then the government is also falling short, isn't it?
Yes, you're asking me only, madam?
Yes, yes, Mr. Redana.
Yeah, the basic problem here is, in such case, the right to life is
Mr. Baburao, I'll come
guaranteed.
back. Mr. Baburao, I'll come back to you. Mr. Redana, go ahead.
Okay.
It came to my knowledge that a case has been registered and investigating, and I came to know that Mr. Venkateswara Rao, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, he was made as chief, and 4 other directors who are technically qualified to investigate into this. It constituted a team to investigate into this affair, and they are looking at it. And the fun of this thing is, there are so many industries. The factory inspector, one factory inspector has to, when I came to know, when I asked one of the factory inspector, he says, once in a while he has to inspect the factory, and fire department also like that, they have to inspect and give the certificate on once in a year. What the industry people will do, when the inspector boilers or factory inspectors or the fire norm inspector, whoever wants to visit, on that day they made it as perfect. The other days, there are occasions, they used to get the fire norm things and put as a showcase this thing, and after the inspecting authority goes away, they will all remove and give it. This is what happening. But it has to be, see, the industry owner should have to look into that. Say why should these norms kept? Why should we allow this kind of malpractices? That is not happening properly, because the one factory inspector cannot look into 1,000 factories. There are so many factories, there are so many laws. There should be some monthly ones. They should submit the factory, the boiler inspector. He doesn't know, he is not fully qualified. That is not only here, even in Pune, even in Madras, even in Bombay it is happening. But on the day we will talk and forget about the incident. I do agree, I do admit that poor people who are working with these factories, they are being penalized and facing deaths. So the thing is, government of India has to plan for a periodical investigation, and they have to submit periodically. All over India it is happening. I know many things. See, when industries, the owners of the industry, some MD Amitraj Sinha, somebody, he spoke on the other day that he is giving 1 CR for each dead person. Can 1 crore is enough for them? It is not like that. Life is more precious than money. But every industry, there are thousands of industries, chemical industries, especially bulk drug industries, and they are all powerful. Some of them are related to the political bosses. You cannot go directly investigate. So even if he says something, he is powerful man, he is having backing, he is having MPs, like that. They will give NAM certificates and coming. This is all what happening. Finally, once in a while, these kinds of things happening, and we are keeping away from this kind of incidents.
So there are lessons to be learned. There are responsibility, Navika Harshe, there's accountability that needs to be fixed, and if that falls at the doorstep of the fire officials, of the administration, that if it is found guilty at the end of the investigation, will they be investigated, and if they are found guilty, will they be acted upon?
Absolutely. We are the government
Definitely
which brought in Hydra, which took a lot of unpopular measures. If you remember, we were criticized very heavily for Hydra because we know a lot of buildings of very influential people which were on the lake beds were demolished. So we are taking measures. So we are not a government which is shy of doing what has to be done. And we do care about people. I mean, the Congress government has always believed in social justice and inclusion. And we are aware of all the people who are working in these factories and how the poor suffer. And that's why one of the things which we did was also to offer free medical services, because we understand what people need. We are not talking in the air, and every incident which has happened, we have been there. We have taken whatever measures are necessary, and I think it is also time for, as Mr. Redana was saying, that there has to be better regulation also from the central government. If this is happening all over the country, then this is an issue which has to be looked into at a larger level. It can't just be at the door of one state government which is actually doing things, and because we're doing things, we're getting penalized.
And Subhash, the BJP-led central government needs to do more. It can't be left to individual state governments because it seems to be a systemic issue that needs to be worked on.
The National Building Code manual very clearly says that it should be, there are so many issues which has to be addressed, and the enforcement agency is the state government in that. So the central government already has given so many mandates on that, whether it is environmental protection or fire safety norms or building, even height of the building restrictions also, we should have some kind of norms on that. It is very clear. Even the Supreme Court judgment is also there. It is not right that, central government has to come here and then do all the necessary, the prerequisites in that. It is the local government, the state government's responsibility. I'm not talking about Telangana or something. It is any government in this country, whether it is BJP or, the Congress. It is the responsibility of the state government and the local authorities, and the zoning regulations should be very, very strict. For example, if you take, the particular incident, as the panelists were telling on that, as I said earlier also, there is one inspector of factories who just goes a mandatory inspection once in a year because he has only 100 to 180 days on his at the disposal, and then he goes and then he does. Whenever he goes, everything will be in safety. Just everything will be ready. And as soon as that leaves,
if everybody knows what the pattern is going to look like, then everybody is going to use that knowledge to cut corners.
Enforcement agency is the responsibility of the state government, because the state government has to empower. They have to hire so many people on that who understands whether it is boiling, whether it is the boilers or the factories, or even the town planning just officials also. There is so shortage of people here. They are overburdened, and then they give all the responsibilities to one person, and then now blame on that the official. This is not right. The government of Telangana has to sit and then frame some the regulations, and then they should consult the IITs and the safety norms.
Sure. What comes on from here is that lessons have to be learnt and changes have to be made, Mr. Redana. But these are questions that are asked only after a tragedy like this happens. Should these questions not be preemptively asked? That is one. The second part is that it's been 4 days since the tragedy, and FIR has been filed. Serious charges have been levied against those who've been booked under that FIR, including culpable homicide. Do you think it's bizarre that no action has been taken so far? Or is that how the law works?
No. It is very early to say that, because let the investigation. It will take time. See how it was leaked, who is responsible, who is at fault, and whether the owner himself not, when the boilers were changed, what are the other things, all the things, parameter has to be examined. Whether there are any incidences of recordings are available, this has to be done. It will take definitely, see, if when an incident happens within 24 hours, you cannot tell who is responsible. It will definitely take some time for any investigation. So we should not jump into conclusion simply because it is time lapsing. No, it has to be investigated. How many people are there? Who was there? Who is responsible?
Sure,
whether
that
gas was
investigation has
leaked
to
or
happen,
something. All these
but
things.
don't you think that justice needs to be seen to be done as well? Because it's been 4 days, there's operations still on because some are still unaccounted for. But for the people who've lost their loved ones, they have no answers, no sense of closure at all.
Yes, definitely. See, in a hasty, you cannot charge some layman. See, unless proper investigation has to be done, then only you can prove the who is the culprit and who are at lapse. That should be looked into. Simply because the investigation is not done in 3 days, I'll put somebody as an accused and arrest him and send him for remand. That is, again he will go to the Supreme Court or High Court and see that he is not responsible at all. That is very bad. No, investigation will definitely take some time because it's a ghastly this thing. Still still victims were not identified. DNA test is carrying out. There are so many things has to be done. So it will take definitely 20 days or 15-20 days.
Sure.
This is the minimum period.
Sure. So the investigation will take time. Until then, there should be patience that should be shown. But K. Babu Rao, that patience is running thin, isn't it? Because these kind of instances, these kind of tragedies continue happening. Poor people pay the price for it. We talk about it for a few days. Unfortunately, nothing changes after that.
No, madam, the first thing one should know is it is the responsibility of the owner of the company to provide a safe working place. There is nothing like investigation here. If an accident happens in a premises owned by somebody, and that accident is the responsibility of the company management. These accidents happen because of management failures, organizational failures. It is not, an equipment has blown up. So who do you blame? You blame the workers. That is happening in many cases. They are blaming the workers and trying to get away. They say the worker has not worn the mask, worker has not taken precautions. That is not allowed in safety science. If anybody is aware of human factors engineering that is come in this, they don't accept this argument. Any human being is not expected to work all the 8 hours of duty in a very alert manner. It's not possible. Humans are bound to make mistakes. So it is the responsibility of the owner to provide inherently safe design. Even if a small mistake is done, any mistake is done, then that equipment should not fail. That controls, administrative controls and engineering controls should be put in place. And there is no ambiguity about the management's responsibility in this case. What will the investigation say? Investigation will say how this explosion could have happened. And I doubt with the company, you listed the names, I know all of them, and they are not experts in accident investigation. There is nobody in India you can name who is an expert in industrial accidents, particularly chemical accident investigation. There are very, very, very few. Then what will come out of it? I have seen many accident investigation reports which are just trash, Unfortunate thing, they are even actually modifying chemistry itself. And they are saying the person has died with exposed to a chemical which doesn't exist there. And whom do we have to tell? We write to the authorities, but nobody listens. And you talk about, first of all, safety. You are not reacting after some incident has happened. What are the measures that the governments have been putting in place to prevent accidents after accident? Nothing. Recently, AP government has put up a HLC, high-level committee with all top-level secretaries, etc. I fail to understand. We respect the secretaries because of their administrative experience, a lot of expertise in that area. But are they competent to investigate an accident? Are they specialists in safety? And they have produced a report recently. They have secretly submitted. It is kept in dark. It is secret. Nothing. No, it is not exposed to anybody. There was an accident in a hydropower project. It was investigated by the police department. Nothing came out. It never came out anything. Nobody knows how the accident has happened.
And that's
There
the
was a
most
fault in the
unfortunate
design.
bit. And that's
There
the most
was a fault in
unfortunate
the
bit that
design
we
of the
talk about
station
these
itself.
lessons that should be learned, but unfortunately I don't think they are, and that's something that we see
That is
across
the
the
problem.
country.
That's the
But
problem.
hopefully
We people
that
are
changes
helpless.
with Sigachi Industries, that changes with this incident in Telangana and Sangareddy, and we hope that we do not see such tragedies from here on, and that those responsible for this particular incident, for this tragedy where 40 people lost their lives, they are held to account. I have to leave it there. I thank you all for joining us here on this edition of Plain Speak. Shifting focus now to the national capital and a CNN News 18 campaign that has yielded fruit after attracting much backlash over the new no-fuel policy for overage vehicles. Now the Delhi government has decided to make a rethink. They've softened their stand. In a news briefing that was held just a short while ago, the Delhi government and the Delhi Environment Minister claimed that the government has written to the Centre for Quality Control Management as far as air is concerned in Delhi to rethink on how end-of-life vehicles are going to be processed, how they are going to be identified, and how eventually they are going to be impounded. Identifying those vehicles is extremely challenging at the moment, is a concern that the Delhi government has raised with this particular body. The decision is now in the hands of the CAQM, whether or not to stop this policy, and if to keep this policy in play, then how is the implementation going to take place on ground? So here's what the Delhi government has said to the CAQM, and these are the concerns that they have raised. Going on to say that they're holding the order that denied fuel to end-of-life vehicles via the ANPR surveillance system. They say that they're putting this on hold because the system is not ready, that there are tech glitches that are being witnessed at different petrol pumps, and that there is public outcry over the decision. They also highlighted technological flaws in the ANPR cameras and asked the CAQM to look into whether or not they can be repaired, whether or not they can be brought back to in working condition, and only then the implementation can happen. These ANPR cameras, the sensors are all faulty, is what the Delhi government has highlighted, that these speakers that were supposed to be at fuel pumps telling people that they will not get fuel if their car is found to be overage, those are non-functional as well. There is no integration with neighboring states is what they have claimed, because remember, this is not a Delhi-centric implementation. It's an NCR, which is the National Capital Region implementation that was supposed to be done. No ANPR cameras installation in neighboring towns yet, and that's a concern, is what the Delhi government has highlighted. They've also said that the enforcement can only happen after a phased rollout and a correction in all the glitches that have been encountered so far. But here's why the order was controversial. The confusion particularly stems from a legal mismatch, because by national norms, vehicles in India are registered and taxed for 15 years. In Delhi, the 2015 order of the National Green Tribunal imposed a 10-year blanket ban on diesel vehicles and 15-year ban on petrol vehicles to fight air pollution. But you are paying tax, road tax, for a car that is supposed to run for 15 years. Why are you paying for that extra 5 years? Why am I being taxed for that extra 5 years when I cannot use it after year 10? Is a question many common man, many individuals in Delhi asked, which is why the Delhi government has now decided for this rethink. There are alternatives in place. This blanket ban can be pushed out, and alternatives can be proposed and can be looked at, is what experts are citing. There can be testing of actual emissions, of certifying that can be done in accordance of particular vehicles, of particular brands maybe, instead of a complete blanket ban. Installation of filters or newer exhaust systems to meet emission norms can also be done. There should be better scrappage incentives, higher compensation, or perhaps tax rebates. That could be considered so that the middle class, so that the Aam Aadmi does not suffer. There should be a prevention of spillover into neighboring states, because what happens now is, if you have a 10-year-old diesel car in Delhi, you can go to a neighboring state, re-register it in that state, which would also cost you a good 50 to 60,000 rupees, if not more, and then perhaps try to sell it there or use it there. That needs to change. There has to be easy implementation on ground, is also what experts have now highlighted. But listen in to what the Delhi government and the Delhi minister had to say about this confusion.
की स्थिति में होंगे, पर मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं, माननीय दिल्ली की मुख्यमंत्री रेखा गुप्ता जी ने बड़े स्पष्ट तौर पर आज इस बात को दोबारा से सुनिश्चित किया है। दिल्ली के लोगों को जो कठिनाइयां 10 साल की बीमारी कारण आ रही हैं, उनकी गाड़ियों को जब्त किया जा रहा है। इन सब के लिए वो जो भी करना पड़ेगा, एड़ी चोटी तक का उनका अगर जोर लगाना पड़ेगा तो वो भी लगाएंगे। हम दिल्ली के वातावरण को भी साफ करेंगे और दिल्ली की गाड़ियों को भी नहीं जब्त होने देंगे। ये हमारी दिल्ली की मुख्यमंत्री रेखा गुप्ता जी का दिल्ली के लोगों के साथ संकल्प है, उनके साथ ये वादा है और दिल्ली के लोगों ने हमें मैंडेट दिया है। हमने दिल्ली को भी सब हवा को भी साफ करना है, दिल्ली में एक्वे लेवल भी नीचे लेके आना है, दिल्ली के बच्चे भी साफ हवा ले सकें, यह भी चिंता करनी है और उनके साथ उनके इमोशंस के साथ जुड़ी हुई, उनके सेंटिमेंट्स के साथ जुड़ी हुई चीजें भी उनसे ना छीनी जाएं, इसकी भी चिंता दिल्ली की सरकार करेगी। धन्यवाद।
Shifting focus now to the state of Bihar, where elections are just around the corner. There are hectic parleys amidst all camps. CNN News 18's Aman Sharma, in fact, spoke with Union Minister and LJP Chief Chirag Paswan. There's high speculation of what his role is going to be. Will he leave the centre, go back to the state? Is he eyeing the Chief Minister's chair? If not, would he be a deputy? Who is going to be the chief ministerial face? Who is going to be the chief minister if the NDA comes to power again in Bihar? We put all of those questions to Chirag Paswan. Listen in to that exclusive conversation.
Bihar elections are just a few months away and we are in Patna where the election season already seems to be on, and I would say Patna is also the capital of politics in this country, and today I am joined by perhaps the most watched face in the Bihar elections which are soon coming. He is Union Minister of Food Processing and the leader of the Lok Janshakti Party, Mr. Chirag Paswan. And Chirag Paswan, thank you so much for joining us on CNN News 18 in Patna here. And the first question I would ask you, that Nitish Kumar ji has been the Chief Minister for almost the last 2 decades in Bihar. This is a very crucial election in which you're going into. What do you think are the NDA's chances in this election, and what is your party's strategy as a part of the NDA?
Well, not because I'm the part of the alliance, but then yes, I'm extremely confident that this is a winning combination, of the 5 parties, 5 allies that, we are together under NDA banner. I think it is an absolute winning combination, and we have proved ourselves during by-polls. We had by-polls in 4 different Vidhan Sabhas, and we managed to win those seats as well, which NDA couldn't win for the past almost 3.5 decades. Seats like Belaganj, for 3.5 decades, NDA was not able to win that seat. Tarari, we managed to win this seat, So this increases my confidence that it is a winning combination, and together we are heading towards a big victory. I'm extremely confident that this time it's going to be all-time high. It's going to be a historic win, not for the heck of saying it, but I genuinely believe it's going to be a historic win. We're going to bag more than 225 seats is what I believe. As far as my position as one of the allies, I'm trying my level best to give my 100% to this alliance, to contribute the max that I can do. I am holding rallies across the state. We started with Shahabad. We did this rally on 8th of June in Ara, and then we did a huge rally, primarily focusing on the voters coming from the scheduled caste. So we did this Bahujan Bhim Samagam in Rajgir. And now we are heading towards another rally that going to be that will take place on the 6th in Chhapra, and then Munger, and then Gayaji, and that's how we have planned it. So I'm trying my best to charge up my voters to make them understand that how beneficial this double engine government is for our state, and whatever that's been done by the center and the state. I mean, it is a matter of pride for us that the Prime Minister is visiting our state one after the other. It's not within an year of the 3rd term that was formed, he visited my state 7 times. So this increases my confidence that my state is priority for my Prime Minister, and together the Chief Minister and the Prime Minister, the Kendra Sarkar and the Rajya Sarkar, I think they are working hand in gloves, and this needs to be communicated well between the voters, and that's what I'm trying to do.
The NDA seat sharing, sir, in Bihar especially, we've seen in past elections, always goes into the last lap. There is a lot of back and forth always. You are now saying NDA is going to win 225 seats. How many seats does LGP want to fight? You know what, this is $1 million question. I think I've been asked this question every time we approach elections. But then, as you also know, and I think you have started your question with this clarity that, it takes time. And
I know it takes time, but then eventually, it happens very, very amicably. Repeatedly we have seen this is my sixth seat sharing negotiation with Bharatiya Janata Party. I started in 2014 with Bharatiya Janata Party, 2015, 2019, 2020. 20 was little different. Is the reason why I opted out of the alliance, but then 24 we did it very amicably again. And I'm equally confident that 2025 again it will be done very, very amicably. It will be extremely wrong on my part if I share any figure or a number with you before I do that within the alliance.
Because the buzz is that because LGP has a very good strike rate, in earlier elections, that is why you want more seats. You're showing your performance and then asking for more seats.
Absolutely. And I think this is how it should be. And I think this is how the alliance has taken it also always. Because it's not always that you see a single member party, where you are the lone member parliament from your party, you get 5 seats from the alliance to contest. But then again, I have proved myself. I had an 100% strike rate. I am performing, I'm showing my performance, I'm having rallies across the state. So I'm confident, and I think that's how it should be. I think every ally should get the numbers as per their strength, as per their winnability factor.
And one statement of yours which has stunned political circles, I think also the Chief Minister, is that you want to contest the assembly elections. Now everybody is saying Mr. Chirag Paswan is a union minister, he's an MP. Why does he want to contest an assembly election? I think Nitish Kumar also asked you that, if I'm not wrong, that why do you want to contest an election, Chirag, in the state?
He wanted to know that am I really serious when I say this, and if yes, then which area, which Vidhan Sabha I'm looking at. But having said that, yes, I really want to. This is my personal wish. I want to contest Bihar Vidhan Sabha. I don't see myself too much in the center. My whole purpose of entering politics was for Bihar and Biharis. I've been born and brought up in Delhi. I've worked in Mumbai. But I have seen that how miserably, Biharis are forced to live in different states of our country. They are forced to leave our state, settle down abroad. So I want to, Bihar First, Bihari First is the vision which I'm going ahead with. And Bihar First, Bihari First primarily believes not only in stopping the migration, rather making it reverse migration. All those who have left the state, I want them to come back to my state. That's the kind of ecosystem I want to develop here, which I have realized, being the third-time member of parliament, is not possible living in Delhi and doing it. So I think it's high time, when I talk about my state, when I talk about Bihar First, Bihari First, it's high time that I should move back to my state, come back here, and is the reason why I have voiced it. Having said it, the final decision needs to be taken by the party. Before you ask me a counter question, because every time I say that the party needs to take this final call, so there's a counter question that you are the party, you are the national president of the party.
You are the high commander.
If you want to contest, who's going to stop you? I do agree to that. Nobody can stop me if I want to contest. But then the fact is that the party needs to decide whether it's beneficial for the party and for the alliance, me contesting the election or not. Party is doing the surveys, they're still working on it. How beneficial will it be, me contesting the election? Or whether I'll be too engaged in taking care of my constituency and my election, and I'll not be able to give that much time to the ally parties. So yes, the talks are on. I think final decision will be taken by the Central Parliamentary Board once officially a report is sent by the state unit.
But in your mind, have you narrowed down any 2 to 3 seats where, which are on the toss? Because your party has a history of, very strong seats in Bihar. Your father, late Ramvilas Paswan ji also, and you took a chance. I think last time you shifted your seat also, and you still want. So any 2-3 seats you're thinking?
I do have. I'm not going to give you the names, but then I do have. My party has also suggested me contesting from a general seat. So that is also an option that we are evaluating. But I think very soon we'll come out with a final decision.
Chiragi, another speculation which does the rounds is that you want to enter state politics because Bihar also has this history of having multiple deputy CMs. If the NDA wins, are you looking at a deputy chief minister role?
To be very honest, I'm not looking at any post. Let me be extremely honest. I come from a family where I've seen it all. So for me, this doesn't lure, me having a post, my party having a post. If that would have been my priority, I think in 2020, I wouldn't have left the alliance. In 2020, if I would have contested, With the alliance, I would have managed to win at least, 10 to 12 seats, whatever number of seats that they were giving me that time, which was around 15. I would have managed to win 10 to 12 seats. I would have been the central minister that time itself, 4 years before. And I would be having a couple of ministers here in the state from my party. So that has never been a matter of interest for me. Having said that, what I'm aiming at is that the alliance should perform well. We should achieve our target, and definitely, as per the strength of the parties, everybody will be given their respective role in the government. But then, if you're asking me that if myself personally aiming for a deputy or anything of that sort, no. If given circumstance, if a situation like this comes, so that would be one of the deserving party men.
So you will not be the deputy chief minister, but choose one of your party men for the post if
yes.
the choice arises.
Definitely, yes.
Okay. One significant difference from the last election, 2020, when you contested alone and you famously said, I am Narendra Modi's Hanuman. And you did cause a lot of loss to Mr. Nitish Kumar in that election. His seats came down in a big way.
Thank you for reminding that repeatedly.
But this time, now you're asking for
right
votes.
Before the election, that's the last thing anybody would want to hear. Anyways, yes, please.
But this time, the situation is different. You're effectively asking for votes in the name of Nitish Kumar. He is the sitting chief minister. How do you relate to these two things now? Obviously, your cadre may be asking you some tough questions, and public also may.
No, of course they do ask these questions, but I think if anybody who understands the concept behind it, that why it all happened. So immediately after 2019 election, I think I need to clear the air. What was the reason? Why I went so aggressive. So in 2019, immediately after the Lok Sabha election, I don't know why, but somehow I felt that, me and my party is being cornered. That was the time when my father wasn't keeping very well. And then later on, he was admitted for the longest time in the hospital. And that was the time when the whole negotiations were taking place. And since my father was not that active and he was in hospital, and I do understand, because that time, comparatively, I was very naive. I was very new. They thought that after my father, I'll not be able to pull it off the way that, he always used to do. So in a way, I was being cornered in the alliance. I was not being asked, told, not to be kept in the loop. So I think because of that, I started disconnecting with the alliance. I wanted X number of seats. Anyways, that was not the concern. But then I wanted my Bihari First agenda to be the part of the government agenda. But that was also outrightly rejected that time. So when I was not given any space within the alliance, so I had no other option but to voice it out on public domains and through media. And that's what I started doing. Not that I don't have issues and concerns now. Now also, of course, I do have. But now I've been given that space within the alliance, and my issues, they not only get acknowledged, but they also get addressed, So now I don't need to use media, or I don't need to go on a public domain and say that this is wrong and this is not happening the right way.
So you buried the hatchet with Nitish Kumar?
You have to. Not only with him personally, but then I think if you're the part of a system, you have to be wholeheartedly there, or else you'll be spoiling your own group itself.
So one thing I want you to clarify, there is the biggest mystery in Delhi, that BJP says they're going into this election with Nitish Kumar as the chief minister. But nobody says that if you win the election, Nitish Kumar will be the chief minister for sure. What is your take on it?
So let me say this on behalf of my alliance. He will be the chief minister, and I think the alliance is very, very clear. It's just that this is one question which has been asked repeatedly, one after the other.
Irrespective of the seats, who wins, which party wins?
Of course, yes. Last time also it happened.
Yes.
And Bharatiya Janata Party. I respect them, because they walk the talk. Whatever that they commit, they
Despite
do that.
His concerns over his health, which the opposition is raising,
I think it's more been blown out of proportion than what exactly it is. Had that been one of the concerns, we would have discussed it within the alliance, but it is not a matter of concern. So I'm extremely sure that not only will be contesting elections under his leadership, but after the result, which I'm extremely confident it's going to be a superb result, he'll be taking oath as the chief minister of my state once again.
That's very important. And a big issue which is actually concerning your state right now is this election commission going for this revision of the electoral rolls. It's become a big concern. The opposition is going to EC. You think this is well thought out, because very less time is left for the elections? There's a big concern that the poor people in your state may not have the documents, to go, and they may lose out to vote. Is that a concern to you?
I think this is one process which has been followed on a regular interval, and I don't understand that why opposition, anything that we do, make it a political issue, try and formulate narratives around it that this is happening because they want to do this is happening. There are processes, which has been adopted on regular intervals and which needs to be done, most of the time, we have voters complaining that the falana person is not there anymore, but still, his or her name is there in the voter list. My name is not there. So you have to sanitize these things on a regular basis, and that's why it's been done. Of course, there are concerns, with documents being available or not. But then I think the local prasashan is more than willing to help them with. We as, a party organization, we are helping them with. Of course, because we also have concern about those who are not the part of the voter list, they also needs to be inducted. And I think Election Commission has made it extremely simple. They have bifurcated in a couple of categories, before 2003 and the one who has voted in 2003 and post-election and the new ones voting for the first time. So they have bifurcated it. Having said it all, I think it's all to create a perception that, center is trying to create some kind of a nuisance so that tomorrow when they lose election, because before this they used to repeatedly blame EVM for this, that because of the EVM, because of the EVM, because of the EVM. Now that narrative couldn't work. So now this is a new thing that they have got in their hand. Had they been this serious, Election Commission has commented on this, that they are not serious about it because they didn't go for the representation, out of all the parties who were making an hue and cry over this, only 2 of them they represented in front of the Election Commission. Also, they are just talking about it. Give proof, no? Prove what you are saying. Give us the proof that this is wrong happening, that is wrong happening. Not even a single evidence confirming or authenticating what you are saying is being presented before the Election Commission. So just to create a perception that whatever center does is wrong, I don't think that works anymore.
Many in Delhi so feel that Prashant Kishore is like an X factor in this election. You are on the ground, I want to ask your opinions. Prashant Kishore an X factor, who will he hurt?
Definitely an factor, I don't know, X factor, Y factor, Z factor. I was once an X factor in 2020, so definitely Prashant Bhai would not like to hear this, that a similar X factor is coming because of the way I performed, because he would definitely want to win a lot more seats than what I won in 2020. Having said it all, with my personal experience, I'm saying not to demotivate anybody, but through my personal experience, I believe that eventually in my state, because the people are so politically aware, the elections become bipolar. By the time you go in to vote, it becomes bipolar. So eventually, I think it's going to be either NDA or Mahagathbandhan. I don't think any third party, maybe, there'll be a factor in denting either this alliance, that alliance, I don't know. I mean, time will tell. But in terms of winnability, I don't see much space. Again, this is on a personal experience, I'm saying.
So my last question to you, who is the real Yuva Bihari? Is it you? Is it Tejashwi or is it Prashant Kishore?
I don't know what is the age bracket of being Yuva, because me and my younger brother and my friend Prashantji, we have quite a difference between our age. But having said it all, I think this is one call that the people of Bihar needs to take. Ultimately, they will be choosing who's the correct Yuva Bihari whom they believe in. So I think let's leave it to the people of Bihar. Elections are around the corner. Very soon we'll have an answer.
Well, Chirag Paswanji giving us 2 big headlines. One is saying that Nitish Kumar will be the chief minister if the NDA wins, irrespective of how many seats each party wins. And he's also saying he will not be the deputy chief minister. If that question arises, he would love to give it to one of his party members. Thank you so much, Chiragji, for joining us.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
Brought to you by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar refutes Trump's India-Pakistan ceasefire claims. He said, and I quote, "Even today, the central factor in relationship between us is India and United States. When I am looking at ties with US, a lot about it is about trade, tech, mobility, defense, and ceasefire was negotiated between DGMOs. External Affairs Minister also slammed the global community's selective approach to terrorism, highlighting how some countries only take strong positions when they themselves are targeted. So this is what External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has once again highlighted, that there was no role played by President of United States Donald Trump in the cessation of fire between India and Pakistan. It was Pakistan who called at to our DGMO, and then at the level of DGMO, this understanding happened between both the countries. And also importantly, S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, highlighting this fact that there are certain countries who do not really talk about terrorism. When it comes to them, then they only come out and speak. We have a reaction. Let's listen in.
What we have communicated very clearly is we mean it when we say there is zero tolerance for terrorism. Now, and we also, if you look back at Prime Minister's address to the nation after the cessation of firing on 10th of May, there were some very clear messages which came out of that. So it's really for the terrorist groupings and for their sponsors to absorb and to reflect on those messages. Now, I don't think we are going to spell out if this happens, we will do that. I mean, no government does that. The record of what happened at that time was very clear, and the ceasefire was something which was negotiated between the DGMOs of the two countries. So I will leave it at that.
There you heard India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar saying in no uncertain terms that there was no role United States played in cessation of fire between India and Pakistan. And also the second important point that he raised about the selective approach of the countries on terrorism. My colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line. Siddhant, talk us through about these two major statements made by S. Jaishankar, whether about the role of United States between the India and Pakistan secession, and secondly, the selective approach of the countries on terrorism.
Well, Minister Jaishankar was addressing a press conference in Washington, D.C. and in fact, he did take up all the questions from the journalists. And when he was asked about how, when it comes to taking position on terrorism, then some countries don't take tough positions when it has not impacted them. So, to which Mr. Jaishankar said very clearly that, in fact, he slammed the global community's selective approach to terrorism, highlighting how some countries only take strong positions when they themselves are targeted. In fact, he also went on to say that as far as India's position on terrorism is concerned, that when terror attacks happen elsewhere outside India, we have largely followed the same position that we have taken when when terror attacks happen in India. So, citing India's example, Jaishankar said that, there may be countries, those who take selective positions when it comes to terror attack, but India's position has always been consistent. Coming to the mediation done by President Trump, etc., when he was asked about it, so he, explained India-US relationship to the media first. He said that even today, the central factor in the relationship between US and India is India and US. When I'm looking at ties with US, a lot is about trade, tech, mobility, defense. He said that we are a big country, we are a populous country, we should have self-confidence even in asking questions. And in fact, last, in a very dignified manner, he said that ceasefire was negotiated between DGMOs, and I will leave it.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. The ISKCON Sri Sri Radhakrishna Temple in Spanish Fork, Utah, renowned globally for hosting the annual Holi festival, has come under attack in a suspected hate crime, with over 24 bullets fired over a few days at the premises, causing significant structural damage. 20 to 30 bullet casings were found. These bullets have been fired at the temple, causing extensive damage and also around the surrounding property. And this has happened during the nighttime hours while devotees and guests were still inside. Now, condemning the attack, the Consulate General of India in San Francisco expressed solidarity with the community and urged swift action. In a post on X, it stated, and I quote, "We strongly condemn the recent firing incident at the ISKCON Sri Sri Radhakrishna Temple in Spanish Fork, Utah. The consulate extends full support to all the devotees and the community and urges the local authorities to take prompt action to bring the perpetrators to justice." Now, a similar incident had occurred earlier this year when on the 9th of March, the Bochasanwasi Akshar Purushottam Swaminarayan Sanstha Hindu Temple in Chino Hills, California was found desecrated just days ahead of the so-called Khalistani referendum in Los Angeles, according to temple authorities. Now, last year, acts of vandalism also targeted the Bap Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Sacramento, California on the night of 25th of September. That incident followed closely after a similar attack on another temple in New York. Messages such as "Hindus go back" were found sprawled during those attacks, deeply alarming the local Hindu community. Despite repeated provocations, the community leaders continue to affirm their unity and commitment to confronting hate. Hindu misya is rampant and these haters are only getting more emboldened. It's no longer graffiti and pure vandalism. They are also resorting to bullets and firing, and that's violence. And this is despite repeated warnings. Why are these